I was tuned into the people who'd been to Baja before, the future, the past. It was all kind of mixed together. It was really quite amazing.
On a much less spiritual sense or intellectual sense, the being alone versus being with somebody, I can tell you the majority of my racing career was done in a single-seat race car, and the switch with adding a second seat to a car and having a passenger in for that experience, completely different. I don't necessarily enjoy it. Too stressful, and exactly what you said, you find yourself thinking about the other person. So different, not quite as profound, but same scenario. I prefer to drive a race car with one seat over two.
Right. Yeah, no, I love company. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, me too. I'm a people person, yeah. There's just a time and a place for it. I really enjoy it.
Right. And you come to a fish camp and you really love it.
Yeah, right. Well, so here's another question I've got for you. I share my wild and crazy thoughts and ideas and with my family and friends, and some of them I actually live out, some of them I never get to. You had this wild and crazy thought, and you acted on it, and it's turned into a lifetime of adventure for you. What did your family and friends say back home when the first go around, when you're going to walk around the Baja Peninsula? I mean, did they disown you?
My poor family suffered terribly when I was gone, because all they were getting from me was a phone call maybe once a month and the odd letter or postcard. I mean, it wasn't like today with email, you could stay in touch. So my poor mother especially, she was so glad to see me home. She couldn't understand what went into me. He was always such a nice boy. What happened?
What did we do wrong?
Yeah, what did we do wrong? Yeah, but no, most people who heard about the trip were horrified when I showed them pictures of what had happened. And I do remember I was teaching at a college in England, like a junior college, and I had a class for unemployed teenagers. And when I did this trip, that became one of the planks of my motivation. I said, I'm going to inspire these unemployed kids in Britain to, if they can't find work, go off and see the world, go and have a great adventure somewhere. And that's why I did it with no money, very little money. At one point, I made $30 last 3.5 months. So
wow.
I was stretching it out. But I went back to this college, and I remember addressing the class and giving a slideshow of my adventures on this trip. And at the end of it, I thought they'd all be so inspired, they'd want to go around France or go to Africa or something. And to a man, they were all horrified, and they were saying they'd rather be unemployed than do what I.
Wow.
So I'm not sure I had quite the impact I was hoping, but it certainly it changed my life anyway.
You said something else earlier that I caught, and I didn't say anything. And it's the power of making a commitment or saying that you're going to do something, and even more powerful when you tell other people. And that was that you'd made the commitment, and the news had covered you or something back home, and it was in the newspapers. Right. And did you find, and I think that's what you were referencing, that in some ways propelled you to stay moving? Is that right?
Absolutely, and that was one of the discoveries that, normally the first sign of blood or the first discomfort, I'd back out. That's it, I'm going home, I'm going back to the pub. And for the first time in my life, I had so publicly declared, this is what I'm going to do, that no matter what hardship, no matter what I was dealing with, I had to just overcome it and see it through. So I learned the power of that. If you're going to do a trip or you're going to have some great adventure, you want to write about it, it's so easy to just get distracted by something. And if you publicly declare you're doing this, you're heading off, it's in the newspapers, it's on the radio, TV, you're going to finish it, or it's going to finish you.
What do you think the reason is there? Is it our fear of embarrassment or ridicule from peers? What do you think why is that so powerful?
Yeah, maybe that's a big part of it. It's pride.
There you
But
go. Yeah, yeah.
that was a huge part of my motivation. I know there were times when I could have easily given up after, 2 years. I did not think I'd be at that first trip for almost 2 years. And I stuck with it. And many people tried to join me for a while, and they lasted usually one day because they saw what was involved. And I couldn't. I had to just keep going. And I realized that having publicly declared was so important. And when you do that, it's embarrassment, it's pride, it's all these things come together, and you just don't even think about any. There is no alternative. You're going to do it, and you just keep going. And I learned that all my trips, that you do 1,000 miles or 3,000 miles or whatever it is, you just keep going. You do one day, you do 5 miles, next day you do 6 miles, day after you do a little bit more, and you just keep going. And before you know it, if you're going in the same direction, you've walked 1,000 miles. So I learned that you can do anything if you just give yourself the time and keep at it.
I wrote a paper in college one time about progress, and I was questioning what humans call or how we define progress and if it's good. And one of the metaphors that I use is that if you set off in a direction on Earth and you keep going that direction long enough, if you progress long enough, where do you end up?
Right.
Right back where you started. And I was using that as this metaphor for, we think we're progressing as humans and we're making things better and we're finding advancements and so on. But at the end of the day, is it just getting us closer to being back to the beginning?
Yeah, and I'm probably the last person in the world to discuss modernity because I shy away from everything computers, and to me, living and health and everything requires being outside. It takes a big struggle for me to sit down, get a computer, and write a book because every instinct in my body is to just get out there, finish it, and get out. But every
so,
book
Graham, wait a minute. That was not part of your life at age 30 or until age 30. Is that right?
Never written a word that had been published.
I don't mean the writing part, that urge to be outside, the urge to get out and be in nature. It sounds like that was not, what did it exist in you up until age 30 and that was when you finally acted on it? Did you just hear it at age 30? There's a massive change there in the description of your life.
I think I must have been pretty dissatisfied. It's hard to remember looking back. I never kept any notes or anything, but I did start reading adventure travel books, and I remember reading a lot about, like I mentioned, the guys who rode across the Pacific, and I started getting a fascination for that kind of experience. So I think it was in the back of my mind, this is what I should be doing. Even though I'm a couch potato, I'd love to do it. And I thought I was just reading about it as a spectator. But I guess there was a part of me that thought, hell no, I can do this. I'm going to take off. And Baja was the theater for that.
And I wonder, well, I don't wonder, because I'm one of those people, and I've done some pretty fun and amazing things, but I can't get enough of it, I guess, is my problem. But how many people hear that little voice? How many people feel that little pull? And it doesn't sound, your first adventure, it wasn't like you had to go sell everything and get $1 million so you could afford to go on your adventure. You didn't go do a bunch of training. You just said, okay, you know what, it's time for me to go and do this, and you went. And thankfully, luckily, it all played out okay for you. But how many people hear this little voice, feel that little pull, and ultimately say, oh, there's no way I could do it. I don't have the money. I don't know this. They're shame on those people, or too bad for those people that I shouldn't say shame. That sounds like I'm judging, but what I'm getting at is that it's so we think making major life changes is so much harder than it really is. And once you've done it, you realize that there really is no limit to what I can do if I really want to do it in life. There's no barriers. I mean, there's sure maybe some physical things that could be difficult, but at the end of the day, it's that first step, like you said, just keep moving. Start and keep moving, keep going.
And most people are wonderful. You're going to find that they're going to be helpful, they're going to be kind. The image we have that puts us off is, mass murderers and horrible.
Right.
And the world is not like that. Maybe the big cities in the United States are like that, but the world is not like that. Most people just have a wonderful tradition of hospitality. And probably the most hospitality I've ever encountered, I could ever imagine, is right here in Baja California.
Yeah.
And but there is another side to it. If you don't know what you're doing, you will die very quickly, and you'll get into trouble very quickly. I grew up as a city boy. I got a good instinct for a situation that doesn't feel good, and I know when to say goodbye and get out of Dodge. So I think that helps. You've got to be a bit streetwise, but you've also got to prepare. I did prepare. I don't want to give the impression I just took off with nothing. When I decided I was going to do the trip, maybe I couldn't speak Spanish and I had no money and whatever. Well, I had no money right throughout the trip. But I tried to learn Spanish. I read everything I could about desert survival. I got all the equipment I needed. I thought it through. I'm going to be by the coast. My stills, they've got to work. I've got to test them. Boiling seawater, condensing the steam. Is it going to work? Tried everything. Can I carry it? I can only carry 60 pounds, say. And can I get enough equipment in my backpack? I had to think everything through. And obviously you get stronger as you walk around, you get fitter, you can carry a bit more. But I don't want to give the impression that you just take off with no preparation. I prepared really thoroughly because I wanted to come back alive.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'm glad you're pointing that out for sure.
And I'm the biggest coward in the world. If something looks dangerous, I'm the first one I want to get out of it. So be prepared.
There was the walking trip, the burro trip, the kayak trip. Each of those has a book. That's 3. Can you tell me what those 3 books are called so that we can let our listeners hear and hopefully buy your books? Are they all still available?
Well, actually, they're all out of print, but they're all available as ebooks. I only have the book which I sell at lectures if I'm giving a presentation. But I'm running out of books, but there are ebooks. And the good thing about the ebooks is instead of 36 color photographs, they have 136 color photographs. So there's more of the book in the ebook. The first one was Into a Desert Place, and that's where I walked the coastline and had all my really scary adventures. Second one is Journey with the Baja Burro. And that's where the burro bred his way down the Baja, embarrassed me enormously. The third one was Nearer My Dog to Thee, and I took a couple of street dogs up into the highest mountain range in Baja, adopted 2 dogs, and spent 4 months up there, just camped out, trying not to get killed by lightning or mountain lions, with these 2 lovely dogs. I wanted to make a statement that these adopted dogs could be the most wonderful pets, and they were the best dogs I've ever had in my life. And the last book, I went out to a desert island, a 42-mile-long island in the Sea of Cortez. Nobody out there, 42 miles and nobody out there. Got the island to myself until some poachers turned up. And camped out there and kayaked and hiked and just thought, oh, this is paradise. I can't believe it. I've got all this to myself. And those are the 4 books that I've written.
What was that book called?
Oh, sorry, that was Marooned with Very Little Beer.
Hey.
And the reason I called it that was I was being criticized on one of the Baja websites for calling this, I was going to maroon myself out there. Well, I did take 30 cans of beer or 36 cans of beer with me. Well, that lasted about a week. Then I had no beer.